Welcome back. In the last lecture, we walked through the flow of a trade transaction, the parties, the steps, the timing, but we kept referring to something without fully unpacking it, the documents. In this lecture, we go inside the document set, because in trade finance, documents are not paperwork, they are the goods, they are the money, and one wrong word can legally entitle a bank to refuse payment on $1 million deal. Let's start with the most important document in all of trade finance. The bill of lading, or BL, does three things simultaneously. It is a receipt confirming that the carrier has taken the goods on board. It is a contract of carriage setting out the terms of the shipment. And most importantly, it is a document of title, meaning whoever holds the original bill of lading has the legal right to claim those goods at the destination port. That third function is what makes the BL unique. And it did not come from a regulation or a rule book, it came from a court case, a very old one. It is 1787. A cargo of corn is loaded onto a ship in Rotterdam, bound for Liverpool. The shipper endorses the bills of lading, signs them over, to a merchant named Lickbarrow, who pays good money for them. Then the shipper goes bankrupt, the creditors scramble. They intercept the cargo at Liverpool before it reaches Lickbarrow. A man named Mason seizes the goods and sells them on their behalf. Lickbarrow, holding the endorsed bills of lading, is left with nothing. He sues. 7 years of litigation. Finally, in 1794, the ruling, once a bill of lading is endorsed and delivered, the right to the goods goes with it. Mason had no right to those goods. Lickbarrow did. One sentence changed international trade forever. The BL is a transferable document of title. That is why, 230 years later, every issuing bank still insists on being the endorsed consignee on the bill of lading. It is their legal hold over the cargo until the importer pays. Now let us look at the key parties you will see on every BL. The shipper, also called the consignor, is the exporter, the party who delivers the goods to the carrier. The consignee is who is entitled to receive the goods at destination. In a negotiable BL, the consignee field reads to order, meaning it can be transferred by endorsement, just as Lickbarrow did in 1787. The notify party is who the carrier contacts when the vessel arrives, often the importer or their customs agent. Importantly, the notify party has no title rights. Being notified does not mean you own the goods, and the carrier is the shipping line whose signature and stamp authenticate the entire document. The commercial invoice is issued by the exporter and states the price, quantity, goods description, buyer and seller details, and payment terms. Under a letter of credit, every word on this invoice must match the LC exactly, not approximately, exactly. A description that reads men's cotton shirts, when the LC says cotton shirts, can be grounds for refusal. The packing list sits alongside the invoice and itemizes the contents of each package, weight, dimensions, marks, and container numbers. It is used for customs clearance and to verify that the goods match what was invoiced. The insurance certificate proves that the cargo is covered against loss or damage during transit. Under UCP 600 Article 28, the minimum coverage required under an LC is 110% of the CIF invoice value in the same currency as the LC. The date on the policy must be on or before the bill of lading date. Coverage must begin at the point of loading, not after. Who arranges the insurance depends on the Incoterm in the contract. Under CIF or CIP terms, it is the seller's obligation. Under FOB or CFR, it is the buyer's responsibility. The bill of exchange, also called a draft, is a written unconditional order requiring payment. It travels with the document set and is where the payment mechanics become visible. There are three key parties. The drawer is the exporter, the one issuing the demand for payment. The drawee is the party being asked to pay, either the importer directly or in LC transactions, the issuing bank. The payee is who receives the money, typically the exporter or their bank. Under a sight draft, payment is immediate. Documents are presented, the drawee pays, and the exporter receives funds. Straightforward. Under a usance or term draft, say 90 days, the mechanics are more interesting. The exporter presents the documents along with a 90-day draft. The issuing bank stamps and signs it, accepted. At that moment, something important happens. The bank has made an unconditional, irrevocable commitment to pay on the maturity date. It cannot be withdrawn. It does not matter if the goods later turn out to be wrong or if the buyer disputes the transaction. The payment obligation is legally separate from the he underlying trade. This is what we call the autonomy principle. And here is where it gets useful for the exporter. That accepted draft, now a banker's acceptance, is a liquid instrument. The exporter does not have to wait 90 days. They can sell it to their bank today at a small discount and receive cash immediately. Meanwhile, the importer gets 90 days of credit. Both sides win. The bank earns a fee on both ends. ICC surveys consistently show that 60 to 70% of first document presentations under a letter of credit contain at least one discrepancy. The most common ones are late presentation beyond the LC expiry or 21-day window, goods description on the invoice that does not exactly match the LC wording, a bill of lading that is not on board or missing the required endorsement to the issuing bank, insurance coverage below 110% of CIF value, and inconsistencies across the document set, where dates, amounts, or party names do not reconcile between documents. When discrepancies are found, the bank must notify the presenter within 5 banking days. The most common resolution in practice is an applicant waiver. The importer reviews the discrepancy and agrees to accept the documents anyway, typically paying a discrepancy fee. If the importer refuses, the options are to correct and represent if time allows, issue a letter of indemnity, or return the documents entirely. This problem, manual documents, human error, rigid compliance standards, is one of the biggest friction points in global trade, and it is exactly what the industry's push toward digital trade documents is trying to solve. We will come back to that in Module 6. Document flow under an LC, briefly. Exporter ships, assembles the document set, presents to their bank. Documents forwarded to issuing bank, checked against LC terms. If compliant, released to importer on payment or acceptance. Importer uses the original bill of lading to collect goods. We will walk through this in granular detail in Module 2. Documents are the currency of trade finance. The bill of lading, a concept shaped by a corn cargo dispute in 1787, still governs how banks control title to goods today. The bill of exchange transforms a commercial obligation into a bankable, tradable instrument, and discrepancies are not mistakes. They are legal events with real financial consequences. In the next lecture, we turn to Incoterms, the internationally agreed rules that determine who bears risk, cost, and responsibility at every point in the journey from factory gate to buyer's warehouse.